And welcome. It's Monday, time for the Deal Doctor live stream. And today's guest is Marissa Harrington, one of our agents down in Kalamazoo, who's very busy with a lot of stuff. And I want to take a moment, Marissa, and have you just share some of the stuff that you do in addition to helping Five Star with its education product out there, because I know that you're involved with board work and community work and theater. And
Yes.
oh, yes, by the way, you are a parent. So that's the reason that you're here today. And if you would just give our agents some of the workload that you encounter in all of your work. Tell us everything that you do that you're involved with. Okay.
Sure. So obviously, as you just mentioned, I have been an agent with Five Star for 7 years. 6 years, 7 years in the business. I do also have a team of 6 people, and there's 7 of us if you include myself. I am also on staff with Five Star. I do a lot of community work in regards to housing advocacy and the arts. So I sit on a couple of boards and committees in regards to housing and the arts community, which is very strong here in Kalamazoo. And like you said, in addition to that, I am a wife and a mommy of 3. My youngest, she is 2.5, a little over 2.5, and she has special needs. So my plate is definitely full. And time management is a biggie. It's a big part of my life. It has to be.
Yeah, and I know you're involved in property management too, and some.
Yes.
I know you've been involved with the Kalamazoo Area Board of Realtors.
Yes.
So you've got a really full plate.
Yes.
Yesterday, as I was driving, I had the experience of driving by a Meijer store, and I saw a parking lot filled with people and people running in and out with full shopping carts. And thankfully, I was able to keep driving without making a stop. I think I did pick up speed actually to drive away as fast as I could. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I think we all struggle with, and I'm a bit past that stage, but a lot of our agents struggle with, how do we shift gears? How do we go from summertime real estate agent to school year real estate agent? And
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned some of the time management things that you do. Share that with some of our agents, if you will.
Absolutely. So I will first start off by saying that one of the things that I am coaching new agents in all the time, and even veteran agents, is about systems and processes. Because if you have systems and processes set up for your business, it does not matter what season you're in. It does not matter if you have more time on your hands or less time on your hands. The systems that you have set up for yourself they're the things that you do consistently. So I had to learn a long time ago, especially when our 3rd kiddo was born, that having set times to do everything is really important. So I have to have set times that I'm working on my business, so that, my phone calls that I'm making, client follow-up, if I'm writing notes, my prospecting, all that kind of stuff, working on my business, I have to do those every single day at a certain time. And I do obviously work around the schedule of the kids, but there is not too much of an adjustment, honestly, from the summer to the fall. So my schedule is my schedule no matter what time of year that we're in. So for example, in the mornings, I do my gratitudes, my affirmations, my note writing, following up on emails, and I start my 50 phone calls. So I do 50 phone calls a week, so 10 phone calls a day. And I try and pack all of that in between about 9 and 11 in the morning. And that schedule does not change based on the school schedule. That's the same in the summer. It's just that in the summer, we have our school age kiddo who may be at the office with me. or he may be with dad, or he may be at camp. But my schedule does not change. And so I think that is the biggest piece of advice that I'm normally giving agents is you have to set a schedule. And the easiest thing to do is to set something that no matter what time of year it is, that is what the schedule is. And you work everything else around that. So that helps with structure for the kids too, because they know like, okay, mom is at the office from 9 to 11 or 9 to noon. And they know that, and they expect that in the summer. During school time, it doesn't matter though. It's actually easier.
It's funny you say that, because I found that during the school year, that was the most productive time for me, because I had to have the kids to the bus stop at 6:55 a.m. And
Exactly.
so if I was prepared from that moment to go directly to my office, I preferred to work out of an office, but I got there then at like 5 minutes after 7 in the morning. I did my paperwork necessary to go out and start calling expired listings and so on. So by 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, I was all ready to make a bunch of phone calls every single day. But as you point out, that requires a lot of discipline to stick with your time blocking, to say, here's the prospecting that the calls I'm going to make. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong in your experience, but prospecting is the number one priority in this business. Would you agree?
I do agree. Absolutely. Because, you don't have business if you're not, it's a contact sport, right? Yeah. If you're not in front of people, if you're not speaking to people, if you're not in flow, you have no business. There is no pipeline.
Exactly. And sometimes we get involved and so busy with processing transactions or showing buyers houses and all of that sort of thing that we forget that we make prospecting a lower priority. And as you say, then you don't have any pipeline for potential listings or buyers that you're qualifying. So we have to maintain that level. So let's pretend. Let's take a moment and say, let's talk about the kids' extracurricular activities. Let's say that they're in band or
soccer. I'm a soccer mom.
Sports. Yes. Band, all theater, all of those things that kids become involved in during the school year. How do we make adjustments for those things when our schedule says this is where we're time blocking, but oh, wait a minute, there's a parent-teacher meeting or a soccer game or whatever. How do you manage that one?
That is a great question. So what I found over the years is that, like you just said, the kids' schedules fluctuate. There's certain things you don't have control over. So when games are, sometimes you don't have control over that. But most of it you do. So any therapy appointments, doctor appointments, standing practices or classes for them, that doesn't change, right? So it still works within the framework of time blocking. It still works, right? But as you were stating earlier, discipline, right? So you have to say, okay, if I'm scheduling a home inspection, if I am scheduling a listing consultation, a buyer's consultation, if I have a closings are the most difficult one for me to work around because there's so many factors, right? That's the one exception, right? But everything else, you have some control over in terms of how you're plugging things into your calendar. And it's all about communicating expectations to your clients, to other realtors, to your team if you have one, and saying, okay, these are the times that I have available for home inspections. These are the times that I have available for consultations, final walkthroughs. This is the time I have. So this is when I'm scheduling things. A tool that I use, I don't know if I spoke about this last year, but what was a lifesaver to me, I had a business coach about 3 years ago And my business coach suggested that I use this program called Calendly. So Calendly is something that you can use on your laptop, your desktop, and it's also an app that you can download from on your phone. And it is a scheduling program to where you can give clients a link to say, hey, this is a link to my calendar. So schedule your buyer consultation, your seller consultation, your final walkthrough, your home inspection. This is my calendar. So use this calendar to schedule your stuff. You have the client schedule and they basically have full access to your calendar. So what they're seeing is the times that you have available, right? And that has been a lifesaver for me because...
Can you do a big favor and post that in the comment sections here when we end?
Oh, yes.
I think I'd love to share that with the agents. That'd be awesome.
Writing myself a note so I don't forget.
Well, I find that I do that even with a Google Calendar. I used to do it back in the day with a calendar, a desk calendar, and so on. But it's really pretty easy. Now, one of the techniques that I have used is it's so easy to change and justify not prospecting. Yes. Oh, I've got a closing, so I can give up prospecting this week. Or I've got to take the kids to a dentist's appointment, and so I can get rid of prospecting for this week or for that time block. And so I found myself making excuses and taking the easy way out because, let's face it, prospecting is hard. Prospecting is fun. So what I did was I made the commitment that if once my schedule was set on my calendar, I would not change it. And I usually set it up for, like, I started Friday, set it all up for the next week, what my calendar would be. And then if I had to change anything, whether it was for a closing, a children's doctor's appointment, whatever it was, I had to replace that block of time with 2 blocks. In other words, twice. It had to be painful. If I was going to move that block of time, I had to make it painful to myself. And when you do that, you begin to see how important it is to commit to that block of time, because otherwise you're going to have to do twice as much. So it's just sort of self-imposed punishment there.
And I will speak to, so my team, this is something that we work on intentionally day in and day out, because most of the people on my team have kids. And it is a cadence that we have all created together in terms of accountability, right? So what kind of conversations are you having with yourself about accountability? This is your career that you've chosen, and you don't have a boss that's standing over you saying you need to, clock in from 9 to 5 and take a 10-minute break. That's not what this is, right? So you have to be that for yourself, because you don't want to, yes, you may be busy right now. I have 5 transactions going on right now, you're telling yourself, right? And not even thinking that 30 to 45 days from now, those transactions are going to be closed. So where's your money going to come from after those transactions close? And I'm always really surprised by the lack of forward thinking sometimes in our business, where we live in the moment instead of planning ahead. I love what you just said about you plan and time block your week before the week starts. Oh, yeah. That's a key part of the system and making sure that you can be as successful as possible, is like trying to plan ahead. What does my week look like? A lot of times by the time, today's Monday, by the time Monday gets here, my week is done. It's done. I may have a few chunks here and there to for appointments or like I said, home inspections or closings. but it's very slim. Like what's in there is what's in there. And you have to be courageous enough to set up boundaries when you're trying to juggle so many things, especially with kids. There are things that come up all the time, all the time. There's no way to plan. And as parents, we all know this. There's no way to plan for all the things, but as much as you can, set yourself up for success, right? So it's not chaotic.
Yeah. And you mentioned the word boundaries, and I want to spend just a moment on that, because I think boundaries are really, really important when we have clients who want us to jump through their hoops whenever it is. And, I think that establishing, the blocks of time, let's say on Friday for your week following, then when a buyer calls you and says, I want to see a house at this time and this time and this time, you can then say, well, I'm already booked. I have an appointment at that time. Happens to be with my kids' PTO or band practice or whatever it might be. But you have a certain ability to establish and enforce those boundaries, because in addition to the job requirements and the need to prospect consistently, we also have the parenting, and then we have relationships. And we have, many of us have relationships that we need to take care of. Our partners are important to us. And so how do we do that within all of the other demands? And then after we look at the parenting and the relationships and the job and the other activities like working on the board and so on, how do we replenish ourselves? How do we feed ourselves to be healthy people? That's another aspect of it, isn't it?
Yes. So for anyone that's talked to me, you all know I am ninja trained through and through. Okay. One of the things that attracted me to Ninja when 5-Star presented it, 5.5 years ago, was that the goal of that is to be able to do everything that you just said and have a successful business.
Yeah.
That stood out to me because at the time I was a mom of two young children, starting out with a career in real estate, and was quickly realizing, oh my gosh, this is demanding, right? I'm working 60 to 80 hours a week and I'm not seeing my kids or my husband, right? So I very quickly latched on to the principles of Ninja, and the two most relevant ones to this conversation are planning ahead of time, like planning vacation, planning time away. That is part of your business, is planning to go. You prioritize it. You figure out who's going to cover you while you're gone. You do that ahead of time at the beginning of the year when you do your business plan. And that way you are saying to your family, to your loved ones, I care about, yes, I'm very thankful that I have a successful real estate career. I also care about you, and I care about our family, and as you said, replenishing. So you're prioritizing that by planning it ahead of time, right? The second piece that stood out to me was the daily filling of your cup. So as I mentioned earlier, gratitudes, affirmations, you can throw exercising in there, right? Making time on a daily basis to do those things, and not flying by the seat of your pants and just going, I'm doing this work, I'm taking care of the kids, I think I'm spending time with my partner. You're actually being intentional about things. And as I said, it's really about boundaries. I know that we have been in a real estate market, we're still in it, even though it's shifting a little bit, where if something pops up, you have to go, right? You have to show it to your client. You have to do that listing consultation. But I just want to encourage everyone that you are able to do that within reason, and you are able to do that within boundaries. We are blessed to be a part of a company where you can post in 5-Star Connect. Can somebody help me with the showing?
Yeah.
We just have that kind of culture here. So use your resources and don't feel like you're letting anyone down if you can't be in two places at once.
Yeah, and I like that you talked about who's going to cover you when you're gone. So many times agents go on vacation and they don't actually go on vacation. They take their phone with them, they take their laptop with them because they feel as though they're the only person who can handle their business. And very early on in my career, I was fortunate enough to work with a couple of agents who learned the lesson before I did, that when you go on vacation, you go on vacation. That's how we fill our cup, as you put it. And so we got a group of us, and when one of them went on vacation, we went, here's the phone, here's the charger, here's our laptop, here's all of our contact information. Y'all take care of it. I feel completely confident that you can do a good job. And so we could go away for 5 days, a long weekend, 5 days, a week, and not worry about our transactions or our clients because we knew they were in good hands. So I think it's a really, really important thing. I want to ask before we wrap this up here, if anybody has any questions out there, they can post them and we'll try to answer them now. And if not, we will certainly answer them if they post them after we sign off here. But any additional thoughts you have, Marissa, before we sign off?
I did actually, when you were speaking just now about basically having a community of your peers, your colleagues, where you can all lean on one another. One of the biggest things that I hear, especially from very successful solo agents, is there's just no way. There's no way that I can take a break, take time for myself, and they're very, very successful. And I just want to encourage, because we have a lot of agents like that in our company, and I just want to encourage you all to look into, I'll just say 2 to 3 people, if you're not on a team, obviously, look into 2 to 3 people in the company that are in your area, that you have a good relationship with, and develop some sort of system with one another. The second thing that I would strongly encourage is hiring a transaction coordinator.
Yes. Yeah. Good plan. We do get consumed with a lot of the details during the process, going from a purchase agreement to a closing, and a transaction management person is a great asset.
Life-changing. Yeah. Life-changing. So, absolutely.
Some great thoughts, Marissa. Thank you as always. And
thank you.
If we have additional questions, please post them here. We'll answer them throughout the day. Thank you all for visiting, and we will see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Don. Bye, everybody.
Bye.